American and Iranian officials are right now in direct mediation talks aimed at producing a one-page framework to end years of open hostility between the two nations. That news broke tonight, and the implications for the Middle East, for global oil markets, and for American foreign policy could be staggering. Here's what we know. According to senior U.S. officials with direct knowledge of the talks, negotiators from both Washington and Tehran have entered a new phase of direct mediated dialogue. The goal, a brief single-page memorandum of understanding, not a full treaty, not a comprehensive nuclear accord. A one-page memo designed to establish the conditions for de-escalation. What's confirmed? The negotiations are active and ongoing. What's still developing? The precise timeline, the identity of the mediating party, and whether both governments have signed off at the highest levels. What is on the table is significant. Lifting U.S. sanctions on Iran is part of the framework under discussion. So is the release of Iranian sovereign funds, billions of dollars frozen in foreign accounts under years of American economic pressure? Both are major concessions. Both are things Tehran has demanded for years. To understand why this is happening now, you need to go back. For decades, the U.S. and Iran have fought a war by other means: proxy forces, assassinations, cyber attacks, tanker seizures, and sanctions that have gutted the Iranian economy. The 2015 nuclear deal, the JCPOA, was supposed to be the off-ramp. Iran agreed to limit its nuclear program. The world agreed to lift sanctions. It held until 2018, when the United States walked away. Iran began enriching uranium again, faster, closer to weapons-grade levels than at any point in the country's history. Since then, every attempt to revive diplomacy has collapsed. The Biden administration tried and failed. Meanwhile, Iran's proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthis, armed militias across Iraq and Syria, kept the pressure on American forces and American allies. The Middle East remained a lit fuse. Then something shifted. Back-channel communications, first reported as tentative probes, began producing results. A mediating country, one with relationships on both sides, brought the parties to the same table. And tonight, we are told those talks have reached a stage where a physical written framework is being drafted. Ed, that is not where anyone expected this to be. Not this fast. Here's what matters in the next 72 hours. By the end of this week, according to officials, both sides must decide whether the language of the one-page memo is close enough to present to political leadership for formal review. That is the next hard gate. Miss it, and the momentum dies. This is significant because the sanctions question alone is politically explosive on the American side. Releasing frozen Iranian funds requires executive action, and it will immediately draw congressional fire. Opponents will call it a ransom. Supporters will call it leverage wisely traded. The White House has perhaps a 48-hour window before that debate overtakes the story and hardens positions on both ends. On the Iranian side, Supreme Leader Khamenei has never publicly endorsed direct talks with Washington. Any document emerging from these negotiations must be framed in Tehran in a way that does not humiliate the leadership domestically. That is a narrow needle to thread, and the one-page format is almost certainly deliberate. Less text means less for hardliners to attack line by line. Watch this. If the memo gets signed, the next quarter. Question is whether it holds for even 30 days long enough to begin formal negotiations on the bigger issues sitting underneath it. The State Department has not issued a formal statement tonight. A spokesperson, when pressed, said only that the United States remains committed to diplomatic solutions and that the department does not comment on the details of ongoing sensitive communications. That non-denial is, in diplomatic language, a confirmation that something is happening. On Capitol Hill, reaction is already splitting along predictable lines. Republican hawks are raising alarms. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, consistent Iran hardliner, said tonight, and we're quoting here, that any deal that releases frozen Iranian funds amounts to financing terrorism. His office said he intends to use every legislative tool available to block it. Democratic voices are more cautious, but not uniformly supportive. Some members of the Foreign Relations Committee are calling for immediate classified briefings. They want to know what is being given away and what specifically the United States is getting in return. Israel has not commented publicly, but according to regional analysts with DI, wrecked contacts in Jerusalem, the Israeli government is watching this with significant alarm. Any American-Iranian détente that does not explicitly address Iran's nuclear enrichment program and its support for proxy forces is, from Israel's perspective, a threat, not a solution. Pull the lens back for a moment. What you are watching tonight is a potential tectonic shift in the architecture of Middle Eastern geopolitics. The United States and Iran have been in a state of Cold War, occasionally hot, since 1979. That is 46 years of structured hostility that has shaped every major regional conflict from Lebanon to Yemen to Iraq. A one-page memo does not end that, but it creates a crack in the wall. And historically, look at Nixon and China, look at Reagan and Gorbachev. These things start with someone willing to put something on paper that shouldn't exist yet. Oil markets are already reacting. Crude futures dropped in early Asian trading tonight on the news, a signal that traders believe at some level that this story has legs. That is not proof, but it is meaningful. The memo itself. Watch for any leaked language or an official release. The specific wording on sanctions and FRAs. End funds will tell you whether this is real or performative. Congressional response. The first formal hearing request or legislative block attempt signals how much political runway the White House actually has. Iran's state media. If Tehran's official outlets begin framing this positively or stay silent, rather than attacking it, that is confirmation the Iranian leadership has bought in. Israel's response. Any public statement from Jerusalem, particularly from the Prime Minister's office, will signal whether this deal has a regional spoiler with both motive and capability to derail it. The mediator's identity. When that name becomes public, and it tells you everything about how this deal was structured and who holds the leverage if it starts to fall apart. Tonight, for the first time in nearly half a century, American and Iranian officials are sitting at the same table and putting words on paper. Whether those words hold is the question that will define the next chapter of the Middle East.